Hi everyone, my name is Mr. Watson and today we're going to be looking at my top 5 quotations from Mr. Arthur Birling. These are just my suggestions, so feel free to use or discard them as you see fit. And if you know of any other quotations that I miss out here, you're more than welcome to help each other out by leaving them in the comments below. Let's get started. A man has to mind his own business and look after himself and his own. And we hear the sharp ring of a front doorbell. Here, Mr. Birling is in the middle of delivering a long speech about his selfish, capitalist views, particularly that everybody should only look after themselves and not others. Interestingly though, the stage directions of the doorbell ringing cut him off, and who's at the door? The inspector. This is significant when considering the big picture. Mr. Birling is a microcosm of capitalism, and we have the inspector, who is a microcosm of socialism, stopping him. This quotation also foreshadows the Birlings, who are a capitalist family, letting socialism into their home, just like Priestley wanted to let socialism into a post-war world. All mixed up together like bees in a hive. Here, Mr. Birling is delivering another long speech where he mocks socialism and ideas of community. The simile implies that socialists are like mindless animals, and the verb phrase mixed up suggests that he believes that social classes shouldn't mix, that instead each class should keep to itself and that differences should exist between them. Unsinkable, absolutely unsinkable. In this moment, Mr. Birling is showing off. He's trying to sound like an expert whilst giving yet another long speech, this time about the future. Of course, he's referring to the Titanic, which set off on its maiden voyage in 1912 and famously sank during that same trip. The repetition of Unsinkable shows Mr. Birling's arrogance in that he's trying to sound like he knows what he's talking about, despite the fact he doesn't. Dramatic irony is also used here, as the audience in 1945 were well aware of the fact that the Titanic did actually sink, so Mr. Birling comes across as not only pompous and arrogant, but also as foolish and untrustworthy. It suggests that if he was wrong about this, he's likely to be wrong about other things too. The famous younger generation who know it all, and they can't even take a joke. Telephone rings sharply. This is when the Birlings believe that the inspector might have been a fake, and Mr. Birling, Mrs. Birling and Gerald all think they've got away with it. Eric and Sheila disagree, and both feel terrible about what had happened and what they did. Mr. Birling mocks them here through sarcasm. He is mocking the generation who he believes to be weaker and more liberal. This is ironic, as they have learned a lesson that he has not, and he just sees the whole situation as a massive joke. The stage directions here mirror those from the inspector's arrival at the beginning of the play, and once again it is Mr. Birling who is interrupted whilst he's putting on a display of arrogance and self-importance. You don't seem to care about anything, but I care. I was almost certain for a knighthood in the next honours list. Mr. Birling says this to Eric in Act 3, after the inspector has left. This quotation once again shows Mr. Birling's selfishness and arrogance. Despite the fact his family have each apparently played a part in the death of a woman and her unborn child, the first thing that Mr. Birling is concerned about is the fact he might miss out on a knighthood. He shows no remorse, no guilt, no responsibility for his role in Eva's death, and only shows concern for how it will affect him personally. He even seems to dismiss the rest of his family here, focusing entirely on himself. Okay, I hope this was useful to you in your revision. If it was, I'd appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. And like I said earlier, if you know of any other quotations that I haven't mentioned here, feel free to leave them in the comments below so you can help each other out. Also, why not subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future videos just like this one. As always, I'll thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.